Being disliked can be such a scary thing. Think about when we were little kids, we didn't care about that at all until all of a sudden that became a huge part of our life. Can I be liked? Can I be belonging to some group? I tell you, having so many followers on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, it can be hard when people don't like what I put out there. I think I've gotten so used to people enjoying my content, having such great things to say about it. I recently have done a few stitches lately that people haven't liked. Tons of people have liked, some people haven't liked. And I gotta tell you, I got in my head a little bit about it. You know, reading some of the comments of people thinking I was like bullying these people and, you know, not enjoying the content and losing some followers from it. I actually gained more followers than I lost from it, but it still is a weird feeling. You know, this is a weird feeling. It's an amazing feeling. We're talking to each other from across the world, from the internet. Like, what an incredible thing as we take on having great relationships. It also can be super weird as people, you know, have their own judgments and opinions, as they would. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. But I got to tell you, I got in my head a little bit this week. It was a really kind of a crappy feeling for a few moments where I was started to worry about what people think. And it can be challenging to juggle that. You know, we're all out here to, you know, create something, to be up to something in our life, and some people are going to like it and some people are not going to like it. And that can be scary. It can be a lot easier to sit back and sit in the stands and kind of watch the game being played, the game of life, so to speak, versus putting ourselves on the court of life and really risking ourselves to lose, to be judged. And I think it's such an important way to live. And I also get why we don't do it, because I had these feelings this week a little bit. My goal is always, with every piece of content, to see how I can inspire people to be courageous, to connect, to get out of our own ways so that we can have the love that we really want in our life. That's like the whole point of all of this. And so I'm going to try different things with how to do that. And I tried some different things this past week, and some people loved it, some people didn't. But it's a weird thing. Nothing's prepared me for hundreds of thousands of people and millions of people watching something I put out that I'm so grateful for. And it can be just a strange thing. So definitely take something to actually be with people's negative feedback. And so it's all part of it, right? To me, I look at it like this is part of my own relationship training and development. It's like, okay, someone has an opinion. Well, of course they have an opinion. Can I be with it? Can I not let it sink in to me personally? And maybe there's something to be gained from it, and maybe there isn't. And I think this is what we're doing also in conflict in our partnerships. You know, when someone brings up something that they don't like, it's like, okay, can I hear what they're saying without getting it on me, so to speak? And there's an art to that. So it's all perfect. It's so perfect that this is happening the way it's happening, and all just part of the training and development process that I'm extremely grateful to be on and sharing with you now, as I hope it makes some difference to you, in that it can be really scary to be not liked. I think that's why vulnerability and courage is so beautiful, because it's actually risking being not liked to be who you really are. And I think when people risk that, it can be so attractive. And when you do risk that and people love it, you're being loved for who you really are. And many of us don't get that opportunity, or don't take that opportunity in dating, because it's so easy to feel like we need to be a certain way. It's also so exhausting trying to be a certain way. Like, it really is tiring trying to like put on a show. You know, when you think about yourself on a date or in a relationship, it's like, okay, I gotta look like this and talk like this, and if I do all that, then maybe somehow that'll have me be with my match. I don't really adopt to that principle. As you can see, when I'm sharing like this, it's really an intention to share authentically and whatever's actually there in that moment. And let the chips fall where they may. So I wanted to stay on here and just share a little bit about that and to answer some questions. So if people want to share any questions they have about love, relationships, any of the content I've posted, I'm happy to stay on. Feel free to write that in the question box. And I'm rereading. One of my favorite mentors in the world is Brené Brown. If you don't know who Brené Brown is, you should definitely check her out. I'm rereading, what is the Gifts of Imperfection. Gifts of Imperfection. And I'm on a topic of the book where she's discussing risking not being liked. It was just so appropriate of how we can be governed by our fear of another person's perception, and that can filter into what we do and don't do. And it's a human phenomenon. It's not men, it's not women, it's human. We all have this in us, because at one point we were these little kids with nothing to worry about, just fully expressing ourselves, every thought, every tear, every anger, not worried about what anybody thought. And then all of a sudden we discovered rejection. We discovered being left out. And we started to adapt our way of being to try to protect ourselves from that. A huge part of relationship coaching is focusing on exactly that. In what way are we still protecting ourselves as adults that we don't really have to? And that they become our compensation strategies, keeping us from being who we really are out of fear. Again, totally understandable. But it really takes something to have a loving long-term relationship with those compensation strategies in the background. We have to release that part of us that's still trying to protect from past experiences in order for us to be able to show up newly in a relationship, thus having a new kind of relationship. Someone just shared here, perfection is the thief of joy. Absolutely, so is comparison. So let me scroll here and read some questions, see if I can find some questions here, and see if I can offer some support with you guys. I'll stay on for about 5 minutes or so answering some questions. So here someone says, someone I dated says he misses me, and he gave me a lot of affection from the beginning. Recently we argued, and he called it off just like that. How did he go from so sweet and affectionate to just ending it? He didn't even take his time. He said he already disliked the friction we had. I'm so heartbroken. Thank you for sharing that. I totally get that you're heartbroken because you were excited about what was happening. There's this affection, there's this connection between the two of you, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Understandable for you to feel hurt about that. Now your question is, how did that happen? Well, two things could have happened that I can see. One is, when we get really excited at the beginning of the relationship, we can sometimes do these things called love bombing. And love bombing can be shown in the form of a lot of affection, going from nothing to a lot of affection. And so that's really exaggerating our love and care for someone without really knowing them yet, which can create attachment. So I'm sure you had that experience. The other thing that might have simply happened is maybe he got scared. Maybe there was some friction, which inevitably there will be. So many of us are almost expecting the honeymoon stage to last forever. And so when something happens that causes friction, it can be very easy for us to get scared and jump to the conclusion that this is the wrong person for me. I don't adopt that philosophy. I adopt the philosophy of we haven't learned how to fight yet. Okay, so when there's the first time there's friction, that's like the first time we can see if we can be on a team together. I look at my wife, and it happened on like our 5th date. And we had our first moment of friction, and it was like, I was so scared because I brought up something that I was nervous would upset her. And it did. And we came together and operated as a team in the face of it. And that was the first moment I knew. I was like, oh man, we got something here. We got something special. Are we going to be together forever? I don't know yet, but I know we got something here because we've had our first moment of friction and we didn't get stopped by it. So he might have just gotten scared. Now, the challenge for you here is very much like what this live is about. The challenge for you is to not take him choosing to no longer continue in the relationship personally. You guys had some friction. He chose to walk away. That's what happened. The rest is just this added disempowering story that we can put on top of it. So see if you can separate those two things, and it might alleviate some of the hurt you're feeling right now. All right, just so you guys know, it's easiest to see your questions in the question box, so feel free to write them there. Much easier to see than in the comments. And thank you for the comments, of course. The Modern Life of Plants says, met a man in the midst of his divorce. We dated for a year. We're planning a life together. His timing wasn't right. He asked me to wait for him for his divorce to be finalized. I'm stuck. It's amazing how many people I talk to who are either in the middle of a divorce or are dating someone who's in the middle of a divorce. You're so welcome, by the way. It is a really tough thing to be dating someone who's going through a divorce, or to be dating while you're going through a divorce yourself, can present so much gray area. And it can be really confusing as to where the boundaries are, because technically they're still married to someone. They are a married person. Whether they're separated or not, they still are a married person. And so it can be very easy to just go back to them. It can be very easy to not fully detach. And so if that person hasn't fully left that relationship, is divorced, it can be so difficult to create a new connection. So I often, my take on this is, if someone hasn't completed their divorce, I would wait dating them until they have. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you should wait for this person, but it's just, to me, it's kind of like playing with fire. In not being divorced yet and dating, it's just you're really playing with fire. Like, get that thing complete. Yeah, it's going to take a time. Typically, it takes about a year. Sometimes to people, it takes longer to get divorced. But that's a good year to go to work on yourself. That's a good word to complete that divorce and to really find out what was it that actually got in the way. So you're not bringing that past into the next relationship. So I get that you feel stuck. You said his ex is now engaged elsewhere. Again, that's so confusing to me too, because you just said he's not divorced yet. So his ex is engaged to someone while she's still married to someone else. To me, that is a recipe for disaster. There's just too much incompletion going on. And I'll give you guys a little personal insight. My dad proposed to my mom when he was still married to somebody else. I found that out when I was 20 years old. I was disgusted by that. Now, keep in mind, my dad did not raise me. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old. My mom raised me by herself. And when I heard that, I was like, how did you possibly say yes? And she said, I knew it was the wrong choice. And of course, she would always say, and I'm so grateful I have you because of this, so there was no wrong choice. That's my optimistic mom talking right there. But it's that's such a messy thing. So if you're dating someone who's going through a divorce, or if you're going through a divorce yourself, I would say take that space. Take that space. I also dated someone who was still married, and I really liked her. I was so interested in her, and I was like, oh man, this is exciting. But you're married to somebody. Yeah, I know you've been separated for 10 months. You haven't lived together, all this stuff. But you are still married to them. And so I said to her, I cannot be your boyfriend. I cannot take this any further until you're actually divorced. And that was so difficult for me because I really liked her. And so those boundaries here have to be, to me, it just really works for them to be really separated and clear. So thank you for sharing that. I get you're stuck. I get the feeling of that. And I would just, really advise you not necessarily to wait for that person, but more so to go to work on what you stepped over in yourself to continue that kind of relationship, and to see what boundaries you'd like to put in and to start building those bit by bit. So thank you for the question, because I'm actually surprised how many people I work with. I think a lot of people, in going through divorce end up dating, and it just gets really confusing. So understandable challenge. Someone said, she's not a details person, and details are important to me. Should I ask her to be more caring? Love this question. Okay, so details. I'm assuming here that you're wanting more care, you're wanting more attention to detail in the relationship, and that's missing. So you're frustrated by that, and you want more of those details so you can feel more cared for. Brilliant. Typical challenge in relationship. My invitation for you is to be specific. Okay? So yeah, absolutely ask her to be more caring. But what do you mean by more caring? And one of these things that we don't do in relationships is we don't get specific about what we actually want. We think that people should just know. This is why I'd stitch some people's content, because I disagree with every single person that ever says they should just know. And if they wanted to, they would. Fuck that. I think that's so stupid. I think it's ignorant and careless and wimpy to think like that. Okay? So that's why I stitched that content. That's why you see me get so passionate about it. Now, you want more care. Well, my invitation is to actually ask what that care would look like. What makes you feel cared for? Is it bringing you flowers? Is it how they touch you? Is it how they speak to you? Is it when they speak to you? Is it how they greet you at the door? See if you can start to pinpoint something small, and start with something small and say, excuse me, I really like it when you do blank. It makes me feel cared for. Would you be open to do more of that? That's an invitation. That's a beautiful thing for them to step into that will help them be clear about what it is you like. We're not going to know everything our partner likes. I'm still learning things my wife likes. And it's great because when I see them, when I'm able to see what they are, now I can show up and bring them to the table. We're all dealing with many things, thinking about all kinds of things in our life. To expect someone else to know all the things that we like all the time is nuts, in my opinion. So, thank you for that question. Coaching is to be specific. North Y asks, I heard you say do not tell someone your opinion of their relationship. And I'm curious if this extends to people in abusive relationships. Yeah, so I think you're referring to the stitch I did with Therapy Jeff. So what I mean by that is when you're coaching, when you're a coach or a therapist, I believe you're never supposed to walk in with an opinion about someone else's experience. Now you're going to have opinions because you're human, but you, as a professional, you can't let that govern how you coach them. You have to be in a neutral position. And so my job as a coach is to help people have what they want, not to help them have what I think they should want. That's manipulation. And so if someone's in an abusive relationship, now abusive relationship, again, that could be an opinion. Abusive to someone might not be abusive to someone else. I'll give you a perfect example. Italian families stereotypically scream and yell. To them, that might be normal. To someone else, that might be abusive. And so this is where the specifics are very important. And so if you have a friend who's in an abusive relationship, I mean, what quantifies abuse for them? And are they aware of that? This is where to me curiosity rather than opinion is so much more valuable. And that curiosity might be like, how's that relationship going for you? Do you want to stay in it? Do you feel stuck in this relationship? Is this the only relationship you think you could have? And so if they're not aware of it, so I just saw your follow-up, abuse is abuse and someone might not be aware. Okay, well then is it abuse to them? Because if it's abuse to you, that doesn't matter. You're not in that relationship. They have a choice to be in it or not be in it. And so if you see someone could be treated in a better way, well, that's beautiful. You're looking to care for that person. But the more important question is, do they want to be treated in a better way? What's their experience? And to me, that's where the curiosity comes in. So of course you're going to have your opinions. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking to make a difference for that person, I believe curiosity will be more effective in those opinions. Sorry, I got to turn on the AC. It's super hot in here. Tried to turn it off because sometimes the noise is annoying. Next question. I'll do one or two more, maybe three more. We'll see. I'm just starting to date someone and his actions are amazing. However, he's not saying the things I want to hear or talking about the relationship. Red flag deal break, question mark? What do I do with this? Awesome. So when you said that, my first thing I heard was love languages. His actions are amazing, but he's not saying the things you want to hear. Perhaps words of affirmation is not his love language. Perhaps acts of service is his love language. So it's certainly not a red flag. However, he might not speak in the way you might want him to. He might not even know that that's what you want. Or he might not just be accustomed to it. And so again, curiosity. Does he know that you want to hear these things? Is he someone who expresses things in that way? Again, this kind of depends on, you said you just started dating, so not a red flag at all. You're loving the actions and just not speaking it in the way you want to hear it. I think I would continue to be curious with this person to see how the dating goes as you continue to get to know each other. to maybe even take the love languages quiz. It's always a great idea. And that'll help you understand a little bit about where he might be coming from and have him understand where you're coming from so that you can start to hear more of what you want to hear. And if it is a deal breaker for you as you go further and he's just not someone willing to say what you want to hear, well, then you get to make the choice that's in alignment for you. But it's definitely not a red flag just because he's not saying those things yet. Okay? Love the question. Thank you for that, because what you just shared is a perfect example of why I'm doing this work as well, is because look at what you just said. You're dating someone and his actions are amazing, and yet your brain went to red flag because he's not saying the things you want to hear. I get how you went there, but it's like it's so easy for us to just cancel. No, wrong, they're not perfect, right? No one's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I love to tell my wife, we both talk about it sometimes, we love each other so much. We are so grateful for each other. And sometimes we're both a huge pain in the ass. We're both of that. We're amazing and extraordinary, and sometimes we're brutal and annoying. That's just in us as human beings. The question isn't to find someone who doesn't have those qualities. They're going to have challenges about them. The question is, can you be on the same team in the face of those challenges? If you can have an extraordinary relationship. Okay, North said, I don't know, punch in the face is pretty clear. Yeah, so North, if you're asking about abuse physically, then that's a different kind of interruption to be had. Okay? And so if someone in your life is getting abused physically and you want to look out for them, I would, again, get really curious and ask them, what was it like for you when that happened? Do you want to stay in this? What are you scared of? Are you scared of leaving? Find out what's going on in their world. Because there's no way anybody gets hit in the face and goes, oh yeah, no big deal. I'm just going to move on from this. It's like there was an impact. That being said, to be there for them, I just really would invite, curiosity, to work it out so that they feel empowered to walk away if that is in fact what they want to do. Thank you guys for the questions. Really awesome. All right, we'll do last two and then we're out of here. When I was in a situationship that ended about 4 months ago, being in therapy, got back on antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, and have been journaling every day. Am I still a wreck? Any advice? Are you still a wreck? I don't think you're a wreck. I think you're looking to manage some of the different challenges that you've had, looking to bring yourself to some stability, and if it looks like medication to do that, then sometimes that's what it looks like for people. I acknowledge you for journaling and looking to get yourself taken care of. Situationships can be so confusing, can turn our world upside down, and you're trying to navigate that and bring yourself back to neutral, bring yourself back to stability. So I just acknowledge you for that, and I invite you to continue on the momentum that you're on. Let this momentum continue. There's nothing wrong with you. You've had challenges, and you're dealing with them in ways that you see how. Okay? So keep watching this content. Keep getting your support with your therapy. If you're curious about coaching, step into that. Just continue this beautiful momentum. You got it, and I understand your concern there. Thank you for the question. I think to add to that, it's so easy to judge ourselves from where we're at and where we think we should be and all this stuff. If we can just let go of evaluating ourselves and continue an effective process, continue our forward momentum in whatever we're up to, it works out. It just pays dividends in our life, in our relationships, in our health. When I started making content, I promised myself I would make a brand new piece of content every day for a year, no matter who liked it, no matter what happened. And that's how I reach hundreds of thousands of millions of people now, is because of that consistency without evaluating how it was going yet. Right? And that's what gets in the way, is evaluating how it's going before we let ourselves really build that exponential momentum. So you're on your way, keep having support, don't do this stuff alone, and I'm excited for what's coming for you. All right, last one. My last relationship was in college, which was over 10 years ago. Since then, I've been on multiple dates and haven't found anybody that I liked. And if I did it just didn't work out, like after a couple times dating that person, I feel hopeless and stuck. What do I do? Okay, so I'm working with a few people just like this, where you haven't had a serious relationship or a committed relationship in a long time. Everyone you meet on dates seems like someone you don't really like or you're not in love with. Okay, there's something going on with you. It's not about going to search more. It's not about getting on dates and swiping more times. There's something going on with you that's keeping you from opening up, that's keeping you from letting people in. And so that's what you want to go to work on. You want to see how that past that you've had, whether it was with that person 10 years ago in college or with something else, is now affecting how you show up on dates and how you get to interact with people. It's so important, because if you don't get that clear and free yourself from that, you're going to be dating in a certain way, with hesitancy, with pessimism, with discouragement. So your beautiful, wonderful, amazing self isn't actually going to be there. It's going to be covered up by something. So I invite you to look and get curious about yourself, what your hesitation is to let yourself show up in a new way, okay? Because you just got some past. That's my assertion. You got some past you're dragging around with you, as so many of us do. So thank you guys so much for the questions. Thank you for the engagement. Thank you for the love. Thank you for being people open to developing yourself in relationships. It so matters. Every time that you go to work on yourself and how you can be loving and how you can release upset, makes a difference not only for you, but everyone that gets to be around you. So thank you guys for the work you're doing. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you around. I don't even know how to exit this. There.